Elena Voss used to believe the world rewarded kindness. She ran a small vineyard with her husband Daniel and their daughter Mira, content with quiet mornings and simple joys. That belief died the night the Kessler family's men came for the land her father had left her, the land Marcus Kessler wanted for his empire. They didn't ask. They burned. The fire took the barn first, then the house, then everything Elena had ever loved. Daniel tried to pull Mira from the flames and never came back out. Elena watched from the tree line, dragged there by a neighbor who thought he was saving her. She spent 3 days in the hospital and 3 years in silence. The police called it an accident, faulty wiring, bad luck. Elena knew better. She'd seen the black car idling at the end of the drive before the smoke ever rose. She buried her husband and daughter beneath the same oak tree where Mira used to swing, and she buried the woman she used to be right alongside them. What rose from that grave had no name for kindness anymore. Only a list. 5 names. 5 men who worked for Marcus Kessler. She would learn each one. Elena sold what remained of the land for less than it was worth and disappeared into the city, renting a cramped apartment above a shuttered bookstore. She spent her nights studying. Not grief counseling, not therapy, but locks, ledgers, and the architecture of fear. She taught herself to shoot at an abandoned quarry until her hands stopped shaking. She learned to read a room the way her husband once read soil, searching for what was buried beneath the surface. The old Elena would not have recognized the woman staring back from the mirror, hollow-eyed and steady-handed, memorizing 5 names like a rosary. The first name on her list was Victor Sable, the man who lit the match. She found him at a boxing gym on the east side, a place that smelled of sweat and old blood. She didn't approach him yet. She only watched the way a hawk watches before it decides the wind is right. Patience, she told herself, was the only inheritance grief had left her. She would give each of them exactly what they had given her family. No more, no less, no mercy, no fire spared. Somewhere in that quiet vow, Elena Voss ended, and something else began. Victor Sable trained fighters by day and broke kneecaps by night, a debt collector dressed as a mentor. Elena spent 2 weeks learning his rhythm. The diner he ate breakfast in, the girlfriend he lied to, the gym he locked up alone every night at 11. She took a job cleaning the gym's locker rooms, invisible in a janitor's uniform, mop in hand, eyes cataloging every exit and every camera he'd disabled to hide his side business. Victor never looked at her twice. To him, she was furniture. That suited Elena fine. Furniture could stand in a room and hear everything. She learned that Victor kept a ledger of every debtor he'd threatened, hidden behind a loose tile in his office. A record of names, dates, and the exact damage he'd promised each of them. Elena photographed every page one slow night, her heart steady despite the risk. Among the entries she found her own name, dated the week before the fire, beside a single word, handled. Reading it did not break her. It confirmed what 3 years of doubt had tried to erase. She wasn't imagining ghosts. She was hunting the men who made them. The plan wasn't complicated. Victor was a creature of habit, and habits were cages if you knew how to lock them. On a Thursday night, after his last student left, Elena disabled the gym's rear exit and waited in the dark storage room, breathing slow. When Victor came to shut off the lights, she stepped into the light instead. He didn't recognize her at first. 3 years and grief will reshape a face. Then his eyes found the photograph she held up. Daniel, Mira, the vineyard, the fire. Recognition arrived like a slow-breaking wave, and with it, real fear. She didn't kill him. Not yet, not this one, not tonight. Instead, she left him zip-tied to the very ring post where he trained boys to hit harder than they were hit. His own ledger tucked into his jacket pocket with every damning page marked. An anonymous tip reached the detective who'd once called her family's death an accident. Victor Sable would spend the rest of his years explaining ledgers to men with badges and worse, men whose money he'd once collected. Elena walked into the rain feeling nothing like triumph. Only the quiet click of one name crossed off 5. Reginald Cho laundered the Kessler family's money through 3 shell companies and a private bank on the 17th floor of a glass tower downtown. He was careful, calm, and impossible to rattle. The kind of man who signed death warrants with the same steady hand he used to sign birthday cards for his grandchildren. Elena couldn't clean his office. Men like Cho didn't trust janitors near their secrets. Instead, she became someone he trusted completely. A consultant recommended by a name he respected, hired to modernize his outdated security system, given a badge and a smile that hid a blade. For 6 weeks, Elena rewired more than cameras. She built herself a door only she knew existed, buried inside code that looked like routine maintenance. She learned Cho's patterns of guilt. The charity galas he funded to feel clean, the daughter he'd shielded from ever learning where the money came from. Elena did not hate Cho's daughter. She simply understood, now, exactly how monsters hid behind ordinary families, because she'd once believed monsters only lived in strangers, not in men who tucked their children in at night. When the moment came, Elena didn't break down a single door. She simply let the truth walk out the front one. Every laundered account, every falsified transaction, every dollar traced back to the fire that killed her family. She routed it quietly and completely into the inbox of a federal task force that had been circling the Kesslers for a decade without proof. Cho would not go to prison for murder. He would go for something almost poetic: theft, fraud, betrayal of the very family he thought his silence protected. The Kesslers would see him as compromised. That, too, was part of Elena's design. She watched from a coffee shop across the street the morning agents walked Reginald Cho out in handcuffs, his daughter's face pale and disbelieving behind the glass doors. Elena felt the same hollow satisfaction as before. Not joy, never joy, just arithmetic balancing. 2 names gone. 3 remained. The enforcer who broke bones for Kessler's pleasure, the lawyer who buried every crime in paperwork, and Marcus Kessler himself, the man who had ordered it all. She finished her coffee, left no tip, and walked into a city that had no idea a reckoning was already halfway finished. Big Tomas Reyes enjoyed his work far too much for a man who claimed he was just following orders. He was the one who'd waited outside Elena's home that night, the one who made sure no fire truck arrived until it was far too late. Elena had saved him for last among the smaller names, not out of mercy but because rage clouded judgment. And this man required precision, not fury. She found him running an underground fight club in a converted warehouse, a place where desperate men bet money they didn't have, and Tomas skimmed profit from every broken jaw. She didn't fight him in the ring, that would have been theater, and Elena had no interest in theater. Instead, she fed information to a rival crew Tomas had been skimming from for over a year, planting just enough evidence to point the blame in her direction and then quietly stepping aside. Men like Tomas built their own graves. All Elena had to do was hand them the shovel disguised as opportunity. 3 nights later, the rival crew came for their money in the loudest way possible, and Tomas Reyes learned that karma sometimes wears someone else's face. Only 2 remained now. Diane Aldrich, the lawyer who'd erased every trace of the Kessler family's crimes for 20 years, and Marcus Kessler himself. Diane was harder, no ledgers, no cameras, no habits sloppy enough to exploit. She lived behind privilege and precedent, certain the law itself was her shield. Elena approached differently this time. She became a client, a grieving widow, not far from true, seeking representation in a wrongful death case against a company Diane's firm quietly represented. Diane took the meeting out of curiosity, unaware she was inviting the very reckoning she'd spent decades helping bury. Over 3 meetings, Elena extracted what she needed. Not documents, but confidence, the careless kind powerful people share when they believe no consequence can reach them. Diane bragged, subtly, about cases she'd made disappear, including one involving a suspicious vineyard fire the county had quietly closed. Elena recorded every word on a device sewn into her coat lining. When she finally walked into the state bar's ethics office, she didn't need a smoking gun. She had a lawyer's own voice, confessing sins she'd assumed the grave would keep silent forever. Marcus Kessler had built an empire on other people's ashes, and he had done it so completely that he no longer feared retribution, only inconvenience. He noticed the unraveling too late. His enforcer arrested, his banker disgraced, his lawyer disbarred and indicted, all within the same 8 months. He suspected rivals, federal agents, betrayal from within his own ranks. He never once suspected the quiet widow whose family he'd erased 3 years earlier, because men like Marcus Kessler believed grief made people weaker, not sharper. Elena had let him believe that. It was the last mistake he would ever make. She arranged their final meeting herself using a false identity built over years, an investor interested in laundering money through his last untouched shell company. Marcus agreed to meet alone, arrogance convincing him no threat could possibly reach the man who'd survived every threat before. Elena arrived at his estate at dusk, the same hour her house had burned, carrying nothing but a folder of documents and a memory she had sharpened into a blade. Marcus greeted her with a practiced smile, unaware he was shaking the hand of the woman who had already taken everything he loved. Elena didn't raise a weapon. She raised the truth instead, sliding the folder across his desk. Confessions, transferred fortunes, 5 names he thought were still loyal, now scattered across prisons and disgrace. She told him about the oak tree, about Myra's swing, about Daniel's hands reaching through smoke for a daughter he couldn't save. Marcus Kessler, for the first time in decades, understood fear the way his victims once had, not fear of death, but fear of losing everything that made him who he believed he was. His empire, built on other families' ashes, was already burning around him. By the time the authorities arrived, alerted by an anonymous call Elena had placed hours earlier, Marcus Kessler had nothing left to bargain with. No ledger unburned, no ally unturned, no lie uncovered. Elena walked away before the sirens crested the hill, disappearing into the same darkness that had swallowed her 3 years before. She didn't feel triumphant. She felt, for the first time since the fire, quiet. Somewhere behind her, an empire built on stolen lives finally collapsed into the ashes it had always deserved, and Elena Voss walked forward into a world that no longer owed her anything.